If you reflect a little on this year, you might reflect on the many events which this St Michael's Church community provides. You've heard about some of them today. But throughout this year, we've also been able to meet some quite astonishing people with an extraordinary story to tell. And I'm going to introduce one of them to you today. Although she hardly needs introduction because she's become one of us. Some years ago, I was at a function in the Camberwell City Centre and I met this person. And in the course of that meeting, we formed an ongoing relationship with her group. And that in particular, I'm talking today to Cheng. She suffered a stroke, and she'll tell us about that stroke. But in addition to that, she then went on to set up a support group. And I've had quite a great deal to do with that particular support group of people who have had strokes, but really were then very isolated without much help available to them. And they then discovered what help could be available to them through such a support group and through a very special person. So I'm going to ask you to welcome Cheng this morning. Every Sunday morning, I have my minders looking after me before and during and after church, and I'm interested to see that you have your minders here today.
66 going on 96, I think.
That's good. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Very.
Yes, I'm very honored to be here, Dr. McNabb, Dr. Campbell, and the Church Council of St. Michael's for inviting me.
You had a stroke how many years ago?
I had a stroke 18 years ago, a brain hemorrhage.
Yeah. And what did that do to you at the time, physically?
There's the thing about stroke, it's so sudden that you have no time to prepare. So 1 minute I was healthy, working, and enjoying myself. And the next thing I know, I was flat on my back, half paralyzed, immobile, and wondering what's happening to me. It just no time to prepare.
No earlier indications, it just happened?
Well, if I look back, of course, I can see a little bit of indications here and there. I always have headaches when I was young. And blood pressure was okay. And because you're young, you eat whatever you like. So there might be a bit of diet problem, a bit of stress.
Oh, that's very normal, though, isn't it?
Yes,
I have that too.
You just don't take it.
We all have that. So all of a sudden, this happens, and clearly you have moved a great deal since that first day.
Yes, after service today, in the Waratah room, I'll be giving a story about how I cope with it, and what happened. I started the Burundara Stroke Support Group. And after that, life goes on, and it's getting more and more things to do.
Tell us about the Burundara Stroke Support Group. Tell us all about that.
After 9 years in the wilderness, so to speak, I decided I want to reconnect with the community. So I look around for a stroke support group to join. But there was none. In a city of Burundara with 150,000 population, there isn't a stroke support group at that time. There may be one before, but then I decided to form one because I was really keen to find out how other stroke support groups are doing and how other stroke survivors are getting on with their lives.
In a city like Boroondara, 150,000 people, you say, then how many would you expect have had a stroke of that number?
What about 2,700?
2,700
less than
of people in Boroondara alone.
That's right, alone.
Yes. And in terms of stroke, the occurrence of stroke in the wider community, what is the frequency of stroke, from a minor stroke, if you can ever say a stroke is minor, to the major knockout strokes? What is the frequency?
Well,
or the incidence?
In Australia, we get statistics all the time. Stroke in Australia is the second largest killer.
Killer.
Yeah, it's the killer, that's right. And
So
60,000 people will be affected by stroke each year.
Each year.
And that works out to be about 10 minutes. Someone in Australia will be affected by stroke, which is really a gruesome statistics.
So 60,000.
In 2009, that's the latest.
How many of those people will die?
Well,
approximately?
Approximately about half of that.
That's a huge.
So yes.
That's a huge number, isn't it? Yes. And the majority of the others will be somewhat
permanently disabled.
Permanently disabled.
Yes, like me.
But if I can say a but, you've clearly done something to cope with that catastrophe.
I think I've gone through the stages of grief, and finally when you're in the final stage of acceptance, that's when you move on in life. You're suddenly free from all this sadness and frustrations and anger, but that is the most beautiful stage. And when you have accepted that life must go on, and I had started a stroke support group, I just feel very passionate about what I'm doing and persevere on. And last month we celebrated our 9th birthday of the group.
What do you do? What does the group do to be such a good support? 9 years of it, that's good.
Yes.
What do they do?
Well, we became a platform to advocate for the rights of stroke survivors. That's one of the many things. But daily and weekly, we have programs because the whole aim is to have quality of life, not just surviving. And I started a lot of programs. We have woodwork for stroke survivors. We have gym for stroke survivors. Everything is for stroke survivors.
And you have bowls?
And we have lawn bowls every Monday. And one of my committee members has actually in the front here, Brian, he runs the lawn bowls. And he's very good at that too. And
at one stage, weren't you going dancing?
We have ballroom dancing, but all of us are getting a bit older, and it's getting quite difficult to be twirling around the floor. Although you see on television, they did acrobatic acts when you're younger.
Are you going to do Dancing with the Stars, are you?
Well, not quite. We're seeing stars sometimes when we turn around too often, yes.
So, people generally, what do we need to know from your experience? I know that you'll be talking more about it later, but what do we really need to know about stroke?
I think actually stroke is unfortunately a global epidemic now, and I will give you figures about that. 15 million people in the world is affected by stroke, of which 6 million will die of stroke. And a further 5 million will have permanent disability. Now, it's really gruesome. That's why the World Stroke Organization is emailing everybody throughout the world that has an interest in the World Stroke Organization. And I got an email the other day to please spread the news that stroke is preventable, stroke is treatable. And there are many things you can do when you have a stroke, and there are many things you can do to reduce your chance of getting a stroke.
So preventable?
Preventable,
treatable, and also productive in terms of
and
doing some productive life.
And that's what I'll be speaking on in the Watertown room today.
So I hope you'll all, or as many of you as can, will squeeze in with us and come and hear Jenny Cheng speak in Waratah after coffee today.
And it only takes six simple steps to minimize. Yeah.
Don't tell us what they are.
No.
We'll hear about them later. In fact, just as you were speaking, I thought you should have been giving the sermon today, because you're saying some of the things that I shall say in a few moments. But we want to say how much we all, those of us who know your work and know you, how much we really admire what you are doing and what you've done for yourself, for your family here, and for many of the men and women, some of whom I know within the Burundara stroke group and within our support group and within other support groups as well. It really is a marvellous piece of work.
There's 24 stroke support groups in Victoria. 24.
Yes. And you've had a major part in getting those stroke groups functioning, and I've been part of a few of them as well, and so I've seen the work you do, and I really am proud to be associated with you. Would you thank you for today?